We are at the Princess Anne County Training School Union Kempsville High School Museum. And we are located inside of a school called Renaissance Academy. And the reason this museum is inside of a school is because Princess Anne County Training School Union Kempsville High School Museum is dedicated to what was the only African American high school that existed in Princess Anne County, which is now Virginia Beach. So this was a time of segregation. And that school was torn down to build Renaissance Academy. So it seemed only appropriate to put a museum inside of this school. A lot of the things that we have in terms of our objects came from alumni, and so we're really pleased that they were comfortable in sharing their precious things with us. But we begin with the traditional cap and gown. We have class rings, lots of great photographs. We have the yearbook, and we have that up on a touch screen, so you can actually flip through the pages and look at some of the people who attended the school. And then there's an old typewriter, a newsletter called The Highlighter that's produced by the students. We have a program from one of their plays that was Here Comes the Bride. There's a beaded homecoming crown worn by a homecoming queen. There's some oral histories, so we get to hear from the alumni exactly what it felt for them to be going to school at this time, and much more exciting things for people to see. Well, we're in the museum's little version of the auditorium. Even when the school was first built, there was an assembly room. There was likely to have a very small auditorium where there might have been some meetings, but that's just how important an auditorium was to them as part of this being a hub for the African American community. So we decided to put one in here as well, just to show that it would have had the American flag, the Virginia flag, the well-known velvet curtains. And we also have some chairs that came from Union Kempsville High School before it was torn down. When people sit in it, I always like to say you're sitting in a part of history. So we just want to give a little bit of idea of what a small part of the space in that school would have looked like.
My name is Edna Hendricks. I'm a historian, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the formation of the Princess Anne County Training School. It started in 1925 with a group of teachers from all of the one-room schoolhouses in Princess Anne County. And about that time, it was about 20 some odd buildings in the area. And it started with Mrs. Gray. She was the supervisor of African American schools in the county and the superintendent. At that time, during the early 1900s, there was no school, high school for African American children in the county. So the parents, the teachers, and Superintendent Carroll came together at Mount Olive Church. They held a meeting. It was in October of 1925. The Princess Anne County Training School Association was formed to provide a high school for African American children. And before the meeting took place, they asked all the schools to bring money. So actually, the children of the county were the first ones to gather money to provide a high school for African American children. By 1926, they had purchased land, 4 acres of land, where the current Renaissance Center is now. But the actual school did not come into being until 1938, when the first class actually moved in. The idea of a training school, and the only reason they accepted the training school idea, because in the latter part of the 1900s, training schools started to come about, and this came about from Booker T. Washington. And his idea was that after the Civil War, you needed to be trained to do skills. And so this was the idea here. They didn't want us to learn high school education, but they wanted us to be trained. So this is why it was called a training school, whereas you learn cooking, sewing, and then for the boys, we had a building called an agricultural building where they learned agriculture. But at the same time, the teachers during that time period, they did what they were supposed to do, the training part, but they still taught high school classes as well. It became Union Kempsville in 1962. And the reason why it became Union Kempsville, because with a lot of the children going off to colleges, and you put down on your paper, Princess Anne County Training School, and they said, well, you can't handle this work because you came from a training school. But they could handle the work because the teachers taught them further education beyond the training that was supposed to be provided in the beginning. So then the parents went to the school board and asked if the name be changed, and the name was changed in honor of Union Baptist Church, where the first school started. And also they were saying because of the area it was called Kempsville. So that's how Union Kempsville High School. It was just a wonderful feeling to come into a brand new building for high school education, because most of these kids came from one-room schoolhouses that desperately needed repair, and all of the monies that was used in the beginning was going to the white schools and none went to the black schools. So to come into this building, you have a whole new building, space was large, you're gonna have teachers, and now you're gonna be able to do high school or get further your education to, and one of the things the teacher said, become a teacher, become a lawyer, become a doctor. Says now I can become something, and that's what the school meant for a lot of the students.
I started here in 1939, and up until that time, students, in the first school was graduating class was in 1938, and students in Prince Anne County had to go to Norfolk and pay tuition. Prince Anne County Training School, for me, it was a place where I could get sort of mature. I was a very shy person, more or less a loner. And when Prince Anne County Training School was a four-room high school, we only had 4 classes, one 8th grade class, a 9th grade class, a 10th grade class, and the 11th grade. We only went through the 11th grade at that time. And I felt that here I am from Blackwater, and I can walk, change classes, and without getting lost, because most of the people that I would see at any one time, other than at school, was at church. And so Prince Anne County Training School was for me, was an uplift because it gave me my start. And when I went into service, because I had been into finished Prince Anne County Training School, there were certain privileges that I had because it allowed me to be promoted because I had graduated from high school. And at that time, so many persons considered that completing 7th grade was a big achievement for us. And I had graduated from high school, and even in Blackwater, some considered me as being different because I went to high school, and as a senior, I was the only person from Blackwater attending high school. I did not plan to go to college, but it so happened 5 years out of high school, when I did decide to go, I was able to be accepted. When I decided to go to go into counseling, I finished from the University of Virginia. So it gave me a very good start. And I did graduated from the University of Virginia, and I was a counselor in Virginia Beach for 18 years. In the rural area, they named them training school. We were supposed to be trained to do something. But now, as we were being trained, we were also being educated. So as we were supposed to be trained, it gave us an education, because we, in so many instances, we didn't have any choices as to what subjects we want to take. We were told that you are going to take this subject or that subject. And because I had taken those subjects 5 years out of high school, I was able to be accepted on the basis of my record.
One of the best parts of this job is that there's so many alumni still in the area that I get to hear their story from them and see their excitement as they're sharing it and as they're walking through the museum reminiscing, and that's my cousin, that's my mother. I mean, it's very exciting for them. So I think for me, the best stories come from the alumni that stop in and visit and share the oral histories that we don't have, that I can hear personally. Well, when people visit, I hope to stop to think about the contributions of the African American community for their children in terms of education, that they were a part of a story that was told over and over again throughout the South, that there is a legacy here that will always be a part of Virginia Beach history. I'd like them to come by and learn things that they may not have known. And I'd like them to walk away realizing how important of a role this story really is for the city.